Imagine you were given an array with a bunch of numbers and asked what the sum of all those numbers is. We can do this easily by using that same looping, traversing through the array strategy we used in the last video. So for example, here I have an integer array and I'm naming it numbers and I have the values 50, 300, and 40. And here you can see what it'll sort of look like. And then I have a variable called sum. So this is where I'm going to sort of store what the sum of all the numbers is. And at the very beginning, I just have it at 0. So the logic of this algorithm is to go through each one of these elements and add it to sum. And then at the very end, sum will contain what the sum of all the elements are. So in order to do this, we have to go one by one. We have to see what 50 is, add it to sum. So now sum will have 50. Then we have to add 300 to whatever was in there, which was 50. And then we have to add 40 to that. So the way we do it is we're going to use that same loop. We're going to say for int I equals 0, I is less than numbers.length, I plus plus. So we use this in our last video where we are traversing through the elements of the array, although this time we're not going to be printing anything out. We're just going to be incrementing what the sum is going to be. So the sum is going to just keep accumulating all the values and adding them together so that we can find the big sum of the whole array. So at first, the sum is 0. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a quick little animation here. So we have sum at 0 and we go into the loop. So at the very beginning of the loop, I is also 0. So we jump into this code and this code says sum equals sum plus numbers I. So at this point, sum is still 0. So we see 0 here. And numbers I is 0. So numbers so numbers at 0 is 50. So now what sum is going to contain is 50 because 0 plus 50, of course, is just 50. So here we go. We're going to update sum here. And then we've reached the end of our loop. So we know at the end of every iteration of the loop, we're going to go ahead and do whatever's here, which is just incrementing I. So now I becomes 1. We go back in here, we say sum equals sum plus numbers 1. So sum at this point is 50 plus numbers at I, which is 1, that is 300. So now we have 300 plus 50, 300 here and 50 here. So that's going to give us 350 and we're going to plug that 350 back into sum. And then we're going to go ahead and increment I again. So I is 2, sum is 350. 2 is less than numbers.length. We know numbers.length is 3, so we're going to do the iteration again. So now we have sum is going to be 350 plus numbers, which is 2, numbers at 2, which is 40. So we have 350 plus 40, and we're going to put that back into sum, and we're going to get 390, and then we're done with this iteration. So we jump back up and we increment I. At this point, I is 3. Is 3 less than numbers.length, which is also 3? Is 3 less than 3? The answer is no. So we know we jump out of this loop and continue our code. The rest of the code is just going to print out what the sum is. So this code's actually going to print out the sum of the numbers is sum. And sum is 390, so it's just going to be the sum of the number is 390.